Hello and welcome to Woodsmaster Will's Outdoor Skills, an online digital journey into beginners' information on trekking, scouting, reenacting, and information for the outdoor enthusiast. My name's Will Woodsmaster Cover, and I am your digital host and guide for this journey. If you're watching the videos in order, this is the beginning of part 2 of our video series. We are going to begin talking about rope and knots and other rope skills that you might need in the outdoors. If you are a scout who happens to be following along, we will be covering a lot of the knots that you need for your trail to first class. So pay close attention as we highlight some of these beginners knots in the series. We're going to break this segment into several parts. I wanted to kind of remedy the first video in the series where we went 40 minutes. We're going to try to break this into smaller segments. So, to get things started, I thought I'd open with a joke. So, you won't be able to stop me if you've heard this one before, but bear with me, all right? So it seems that out on the frontier, one day into the frontier trading post, there walks a sharp-looking piece of rope. All right, he comes in and he's looking all really well. And he walks up to the bar and he asks the trading post keeper for a drink of water. And the trading post keeper says, "Hey, we don't serve rope in here. You're going to have to leave." And the rope, he's all dejected, and he wanders out. Right? And while he's outside, he kind of bends and twists himself, and forms an overhand loop. And then he messes up his hair so he doesn't look quite so pristine. And he comes back into the trading post. And the trading post manager says, "Hey, aren't you that rope that I just threw out of here?" And the rope simply answers, "No, I'm afraid not." What do you say that we get into the beginning of our series tonight with the basics of whipping and fusing the ends of rope so that your rope doesn't end up being afraid not? All right, let's begin. So, you'll probably notice several of the tools that we used in our first segment when we talk about some basic woods tools. Of course, we'll be using a number of these as we go about the process of whipping and fusing rope. Now, I wanted to touch first on a couple of the types of rope. So, for example, this rope that I have here, this is a natural fiber rope. Okay, this is traditional rope made of natural fibers like a sisal or hemp. Of course, cotton is also a natural fiber, and those fibers are twisted together either by hand or braided by hand or with the use of a machine until they tighten on themselves and create the coil or the lay of the rope. And so we'll be whipping the ends of this natural fiber rope here in just a second. Okay, the rope that I have here, this is a braided poly rope, very similar to the kind of rope that you're going to find on many of the modern tents that you find at the big box stores. It's a pretty classic line for tents, and that is a kind of rope that ends up being fused, and we're gonna talk about fusing here in just a second. I'm going to get this out of our way for now. And then this is another type of poly rope that we refer to as paracord. And many outdoors enthusiasts and scouts nowadays like to have paracord in their kit. Oftentimes you'll find it like this here. This is a paracord bracelet that's been woven in what's called a cobra weave. You can just put that on the wrist like so, have it with you. A lot of folks, they like to have that when they're out hiking, or they'll braid the straps, carry straps or their packs or that sort of thing. And you can pack a lot of rope in a little thing like this. As I recall, this particular paracord bracelet that I wove some time ago has roughly 6 to 8 feet of paracord in it, all wrapped around in the bracelet. And we'll get into some other uses of the paracord as we get further into the series. All right. So one of the first things that you're going to notice here with my paracord is that it's got a frayed end here, and then this end has been fused. And I think so. One of the first things that we're going to do here today is what is very common nowadays, is the fusing of rope. So a couple of tools that we're going to use tonight for this. Now I like to do a little smoothing, so I'm going to borrow our old friend the camp axe that we sharpened up the other day, and then I've got the end here of my my clasp knife, my pocket knife. I'll also get out a pair of my pliers. I'll show you two methods that I like to use for fusing the end of rope. Now I could use a match or a standard lighter, but I really do like these modern lighters for fusing. They make a very fine blowtorch sort of flame. Now this one right here is pretty fuzzy, and if I go to fuse that, it's gonna give me a pretty good sized flame and a ball of pretty hot liquid on the end. So I'm just gonna grab some scissors here. That's why I had the old Swiss Army knife out, but these are the scissors out of my reenactment kit, and I like them. They're a good sharp pair of scissors. So I'm going to trim up the frayed portion of my paracord just like that, and then we'll get in here with our flame. We light that off, and I'm just going to get right up here, get a nice gloss on that, and then I bring it over here to my camp axe and I kind of give it a roll, and I use, like I said, the end of my knife because it's cool and smooth, right? If I had grabbed a hold of that right out of the box there with my fingers, that would have been really hot, and I would have given myself a pretty good blister. And so what we've got here now is a fused end. Both these ends are fused, and we'll be using this blue paracord as well as this red paracord that I'm going to do a treatment on here as we get into the knot tying segment. Now the next method for fusing that I'm going to show you is going to utilize the pliers. Let me put a sheath on my camp axe there and get that out of the way. Alright, so here what I'm going to do is basically crimp a hot edge. So I've got another loose end here on my red cord, or my red paracord, and I'm going to re-engage with that flame. A nice glossy ball. Give that a little blow, and then I get in here and I use my pliers to kind of crimp that into a nice tight point, just like that. And now that end is fused and won't come unraveled on me. And I'll leave those out. I know I'm going to use them later as we get into the segment on whipping. So, but there we go. We're now set. We've got our two colors for knot tying all ready to go as we get into later portions of the segment. So I've already alluded to the fact that we are going to do a treatment on the end of our natural rope. Now this short segment here is one of my practice segments, and this is roughly 8 feet of cordage that I'm going to turn into what's called a trump line for my mountaineering kit. Trump lines are used to secure packs and carry weights and general all-around camp purposes. And I have a whole bunch of lines that later on in the series I'll be doing this eyelet loop back splicing into. I'm actually making a whole set of these back eyelet loops for the fly pole lines for my chuck wagon. So that'll be a later part of the series. We're going to set that aside for now. That's a completed piece, and we're going to bring back our old friend, the frayed knot. So there's our friend, the frayed knot, and I've already secured this end here, both with some light whipping and then just a piece of cordage. Now, when I say cordage, I like to use a heavy waxed artificial sinew. I buy this in big spools for my leathercraft work and things like that. But because it is basically the same color as our light colored natural rope, I'm going to substitute today and use this darker tinted waxed thread that I use for leatherwork projects. This will hopefully allow you to see the whipping just a little bit better. So here's our old friend, the knot. We're going to need to trim him up just a little bit. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim away the frayed end of that cord, because that frayed end makes it really, really difficult for you to tie knots with that piece of rope later on. Now this little bit of knot that I frayed off, I'm going to set that aside and we'll put that into my fire starting kit and use that as part of the tinder that I'll be catching sparks with later on in our series. So we'll get that out of the way. So if you can see here on this piece of rope, I've got a couple of different camera angles that I'm working in, but what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to bring my top view down a little bit closer. It's not so important that you see all the rest of the tools on the screen, but we need to get a little closer view of this here. So, all right, and now I have adjusted my camera angle, so hopefully you'll be able to see a little bit better here. There we go, just like that. All right, and adjust this one just a little bit as well. Okay, so whipping the ends of a piece of natural rope. As I explained earlier, you can see here that this rope has got a 3-cord twist to it. That twist right now is going this direction, so that's the lay of the rope. I'm going to grab some of this heavy wax cord, and sometimes it's easier just to cut yourself off about a foot and a half of that cord. Right? And we're going to lay it here on the end of the rope, just like this. Okay? And then we're going to make a loop or bite going out to the end of the cord. And then we come back around with another bite there. So you've basically got 2 bites and an end kind of floating out here on the end of this piece of rope. Alright, so I'm going to start my wraps. Okay, and I'm wrapping in the opposite direction of my cordage. Okay. And we get about 3/4 of or 1/4 of an inch in there. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a hold of this loop. And I think you can see here, I'm going to bring that loop, that bite that's out there on the end, nice and tight up against the wraps. Okay, and then I'm going to continue to tightly wrap roughly the same distance as the diameter of our rope. Get one more wrap in there. I'm going to secure that through our bite on the end, and then I'll begin pulling that loop through. So if you can see, I'm pulling on this one end here. We're bringing the bite, I want to make sure that it stays on this side and that our end is still through. Good. We're going to bring that up nice and tight, and we're going to suck the end of that rope, or that cordage, right in, roughly about half distance. I'm going to give a good pull there, and that's why I saved back my plier attachment here, because we're going to grab a hold, get a really good tight bind. We've sucked that loop back in to our wraps, roughly halfway underneath, and then we come in here and we clip those bits away, right? And now we have whipped the end of the rope. That one's, I mean, technically, because it is the same distance as the diameter of the rope, we're good. You can do that equal distance of diameter, or about a distance and a half. Makes for a nice whip. Now, so that this doesn't fray out any further, I'm going to go ahead and clip this off, right like that, and then just give it a little bit of a fuzz, and that'll keep our whipping from running off the end of our rope. So there we go. That is whipping the end of a rope, and that is the skill that we're mastering here tonight. So I hope that that is was easy for you to see. If not, leave comments for me. We'll try to get another view of that here before we're done with this series. But keeping your rope from unraveling is an important step in keeping all your lines in tip-top shape and ready to tie knots with. Well, there you have it. The fusing of modern rope and the proper whipping the ends of traditional natural fiber rope. Both skills that will be very important to have as we continue this journey in learning a few of the simple knots that every outdoor enthusiast, scout, and trekker ought to know. So, until next time, may your compass point true north, and your pack be always light. May the sun shine warm upon your face, and the rain fall soft upon your tent. And until we meet again, may your journey be safe and filled with adventure in the majesty of nature. Peace to you, and farewell for now.